Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Social. My name is Christian Salas, Associate Professor here at the El Paso Community College. So if you recall, our show aims to bring awareness to different resources, different issues that are particular to our region. Some a little bit easier to digest, some maybe not so much. All we ask is at the end, just remember, keep it social. Today's episode, we have our guest, Bruce Goolsby, who is the Community Engagement Officer with Raiz Federal Credit Union. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah. So, as always, I like to start off with just a little tidbit about yourself. You know, tell us about maybe your connection since you're in engagement with the community.
Sure.
So tell us a bit about yourself. What brought you to El Paso? How your background and such?
Sure. No, that's no problem. I was born in Georgia, but I'm a native El Pasoan, I like to say, because all my aunts and uncles are here, all my tios and tias. And gosh, I went to the local high schools and everything here, just middle school. And part of my job is that I just go out through the community and just teach them about budgeting and just teach them about money.
Definitely. So, like I started off talking about how some of the issues that we talk about and some of the topics are not often those we like to talk about. And I feel that in our community, finances is really not something that we openly speak about, right? Maybe sometimes we don't want to acknowledge what we know or what we don't know. So thank you for coming on and having this conversation. Would you mind starting off with letting us know what is Raiz? What is it? How long has it been around? What are some of the services that it offers?
Oh, sure, no problem. So Raiz or Raiz has been around since 1936. So back in 1936, it was started as El Paso Area Teachers Credit Union, Federal Credit Union, excuse me. And it was started by 7 educators with a couple $1,000s and this was during the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. So back then, you know, a couple $1,000s back then, like in that money was like a lot. Mm-hmm. And it started real humbly to where it is now. It's a $1 billion credit union. Wow. It has $1 billion, you know, just in assets. And it's a top 50 credit union in Texas with over 70,000 members. So our aim has always been about El Paso, about seeing El Pasoans grow. So.
And the Raiz, right? Not only lay the foundation, but then rise
roots.
From that.
Yeah, like the roots. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay. So obviously we is there a difference between your typical bank and a federal credit union or a credit union?
Yes, sir. So the basic difference is that the banks are for-profit and the credit union is not-for-profit. Meaning, so the banks, like whatever they get as far as their dividends and everything else goes towards their board of directors. And whatever we get as far as dividends is just returned back into the community with the higher rates as far as for CDs or the share deposits, and you know, just little things like that, and like with loans and just everything like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think again, to help demystify the whole notion of finances, right, and even credit unions and banks and such. I can't say that I'm a member. I belong to another one. I'll just say it used to be known as the Greater El Paso Credit Union. Yes.
That's okay. I started there actually, so it's fine.
There you go. Yeah. So GCU, just saying. Anywho, so tell us about some of the services. I know before we came on and sat down for the formal part of the interview, we were talking to some of the staff members here with the EPCC TV, and you were talking about some of the services. So what are, aside from the banking side of things with Raiz or Raiz, what are some of the things some of the services, some of the programs, and even some of the things that you all do out in the community?
Well, we offer a lot of different services for the El Paso community. So one of the biggest ones is the budgeting classes, or like the financial literacy classes. And with those is that we teach the community just how to manage their money better. And we're all certified counselors, like in my department, and we're always growing. So our main thing there is to give back to the community that way, and we have scholarships, and we also volunteer to nonprofits, just different things that we do.
Right, yeah, and we were just talking about how both of us are rather involved out in the community. You talked about, we actually met at a event for the Center of Hope, which come to find out that you are a board member of.
Yes, sir.
Right? Yeah, excellent. So you kind of led to the next point of topic in talking about financial literacy, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know literacy is being able to read and things of that nature, but financial literacy, again, is one of those topics that might be hit a nerve with some people, right? Just talking about your finances, talking about your money, budgeting. So being a counselor and being someone that does this on a regular basis, how would you define financial literacy?
Just basically, it's just an empowerment. That's the basic definition. And the way that we do it is that we want to empower you to where you don't have to go tell people, oh, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't matter whether you're earning $10 an hour or $1,000 an hour. You could budget your money. And a lot of people, once we sit down with them and we let them know, hey, you know what, you need to cut this out, you need to do this, you need to do that. At first, I always say that it's like a diet. Because once you start a diet, I always use myself as a perfect example is once I start a diet, oh my gosh, yeah, the first week is great. Then week number 2 comes out and then start eating the enchiladas again and everything. And it's the same thing with budgeting where we sit, we sit down with the member and we take them step by step with it. So yeah, there's always somebody there to guide you.
Awesome. Before we get into much deeper conversation about that, you mentioned that you all offer these classes, right?
Yes.
One, is it only available to the members of Raiz? And 2, when and where are they offered?
Well, these classes are absolutely free, and they're offered to everybody, because we're inclusive. So we can't just say, oh, it's just for our members, bye, sorry, no. We offer them to everybody, and we sit down with them. And these classes are offered on their time. So, I've had people call me on Fridays. Hey, so can you see me tomorrow, Saturday? Sure. Oh, wow. And we try to work it out to where we have a actual center where if you're in the in the neighborhood, sure, just sit down, or I'll go to a local branch to actually go and sit down with a family or the individual. And so that's how I found out that El Paso. It's one of the big no-nos here, in El Paso, I like to ask about, finances, where I've been in banking for now going on 21 years that I just told you earlier. And it's one of these things since day one, since I was a kid, with my tios and tias, where it's that big no-no question. You don't ask, hey, how much do you make or what's going on? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know, I guess that cultural component to it, right? There's definitely no, we don't talk about our finances, right? So we don't talk about Bruno, we don't talk about our finances.
We don't, because you don't talk about your paycheck, no.
Yeah. So, great, I wasn't aware of that. So someone who might be interested in these financial literacy classes, would they reach out to, could they go in person, by phone, maybe on the website to see, contact one of your members or one of your staff members, and then schedule that one-on-one? And what I'm hearing you say is that they would be done at whatever branch might be closest to them,
or even through Zoom. Because I just did one yesterday through Zoom where she, again, it's one of these things that people want to keep private, and they don't want to walk in and go meet with me if they know hey, it's Bruce, the counselor, he's here for this. So hey, I just did it through Zoom. And so they could go on our website on Raiz.us and schedule an appointment, or even call in, and we'll schedule an appointment. Either it's in person, Zoom. The main thing is that we're making it friendly for everybody, to where we sit down in front of you, whether it's in person or through Zoom, and we help you. We get to the root cause of what's going on. So
no pun intended, right? Or
yeah,
the root
cause and Raiz. Yeah.
But I mean, other than just making it comfortable for people, it sounds like you guys are also working on the accessibility for this, right? Even though El Paso seems like a small city, we're definitely not, right? I mean, you're talking about from Anthony all the way to Fabian's Clean Tornillo and such.
Yeah.
That's definitely not it's not a 5-minute drive as we all think it might be.
Oh God, no, yeah. Because I was just in Fabian's the other day, so yeah, trust me.
Yeah. So I as a social worker, I always feel that that's something that is missed sometimes when it comes to the services. Is you can have all these services, but if they're not accessible, then what good are they for? So I appreciate that on your end. Now, really diving into the concept and to the idea of financial literacy, what are some of the topics that you might have a conversation with a person about?
So like our topics range from basically from like if you're 18 years old or 17 years old, hey, starting your credit, to people who are more seasoned who want to purchase a home and don't know how to or the steps, or the people that are at the end, and they're transitioning from one job to another job. Okay, so budgeting. So we do everything. So we even have a program called Bonsai that's on our website. That is, of course, free to everybody. Go on our website. And, it's a whole bunch of classes that will teach you step by step as well. So just one of the things that I like to do is I always like to get with the person and ask them, so what do you want from this conversation? So what do you want to achieve? And there's people, because I need help in X, Y, Z. And of course, we help them out, to the best of our abilities.
And I think that's also important, right? Again, excuses the lingo. I mean, we talk from the social work perspective, right? So we call it patient-centered, right? Client-centered, where it sounds like you all really take it to that level where it's about the person that comes through the doors, right? What is their goal? Where do they want to be? And how your services can help them get to that point.
Yeah, because with us, because we're member-driven, our members are the owners of the credit union. So it doesn't matter if they have $5 or they have 5 million. Everybody matters. And that's one thing that we at Raiz take serious, where like if somebody reaches out for help, we do our best to like go to them and make sure that we help them out. The red carpet service, like what we call it. So yeah.
Okay. So now that we've dove into the whole financial literacy, right? What are some of the, I guess, how can you put it? What would be some of the common trends or the common things that you hear El Pasoans dealing with when it comes to financial, I don't want to say issues, but I guess the financial troubles, I guess issues would probably be the best one. Yeah.
No, so the main one is I don't make enough money. And that's when oh my gosh, and like once we sit down with them and I'll say, okay, so can we print out like your statement, or I'll just go through their account, and you'll start seeing like Starbucks, Dutch Bros, like just little things like that. And I'm like, well, here's your number one problem.
Right.
But I sit down with them and I ask them, like, okay, so can you cut this out? Can you live by making like your coffee at home? Can you live by making like just not only your coffee at home, but just changing like your lifestyle? And a lot of people at first will say, no, Bruce, because I really need my Dutch Bros. I really need to pay $7 for like somebody to like compliment me. And I'm like, but that's one thing that I try to help people that way, where like just changing like a habit. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about a diet. Like a diet is not successful like unless that you live that lifestyle, like, hey, I'm going to start eating healthier. I'm not going to go to McDonald's and pay $11 for like a Big Mac. Okay, you know what? I'm going to make my sandwich at home, or just things like that. So what we do is we give them the tools to be successful, whether it's online or just even like in person, where there's classes that we have, that we go to different schools, but different nonprofits, or even like UTEP, where like we teach them, because one of the things that we found out is that, especially like in El Paso, this subject, like you mentioned earlier, but we don't talk about it.
Right.
And when we go to these classes, it's one of these things where young and old, they say, oh, well, I didn't know that it was this simple.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? When I guess there's really no perfect age at which this conversation should be had, right? Like you said, it should start off, you can start it off with children, adolescents. Heck, I remember, I think back then it was called like the Campers Club or something like that, where you would start your checking account. Right? You couldn't withdraw anything. You could start saving, put money in. But I feel it's one of those skills that maybe isn't talked about as much in school, right?
Yeah, because now, I mean, because one of the things that we see is that with the, now with social media, where these kids, like they see these social media influencers just with a camera or like their phone, going around, and they say, well, if so-and-so just, like if he could do it, I could do it. It's great, but you also need to know that you need to save the money that you're getting from like social media. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because you see a lot of people, athletes, right, or people that, there's been various stories where people that have won the lottery and are making, well, not making, but they have millions in the bank, all of a sudden end up with nothing.
Yeah, no, and I've seen it like throughout my career, where people have come in with large amounts of money, and they get a settlement or whatever, and they go through it like water. And one of the things, and that's what has made me like throughout all, just all these years, is try to help people like, hey, you know what, maybe you don't give your long distance uncle or aunt, like $10,000, just wait up. And one of the things that we do like with the program is that we teach people about SMART goals, is that, having these attainable SMART goals, meaning like, okay, like if you're $20,000 in debt, in credit cards, or okay, so maybe it's not a good idea to have your credit card with your, like on you while you're trying to do this. It's one of the easiest things to do. Like for us, it's, it's like a no-brainer, but some people still have that credit card and they could still go to the fountains and,
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You talk about, but even then, nowadays, with like the Apple Wallet and the other different, or the different apps that you have where, that it's so easy you can just tap your phone, right? Or even on your watch. Where it's almost second nature. You might think of the little plastic card of, this is what embodies my debt. I can leave that at home. Oh, it's just this. I can just tap my phone. Or I can just go to a major store and they can look up your information, right? So how would you go about helping individuals settle that part of their finances?
So one thing that I do is that I, like when we sit down with them and I go through every credit card, every debit card, is that I ask them, okay, so do you have an app for this card? Oh yes, it's with so-and-so. Okay, great. Freeze it and just take the card. And one thing that we do is, it sounds extreme, it sounds bad, but we have to do that, and we collect the cards. So like one person that I just use as a perfect example, she was about $20,000 like in credit card debt. And her thing was that, hey, like she made great money for El Paso, but one of the things was that, okay, well, she was a Target person, that she would always love to go to Target. I was like, let's take that Target card away from you. Let's take the Apple. So like we had to go in there and literally, just erase like her cards from her phone and everything. And the first month she hated me. Like, I'm just gonna say it, but no,
having
like
withdrawal symptoms.
Yes, but like month number 2 and 3, like you started to see like the, like the gains of actually like the balance is going down because she's not spending, know. But yeah, so that's one of the things that you have to think about is like you mentioned, okay, well, like you'll take my card, but I still have like my Apple Wallet, and you have to like have self-control. Do you really want to go to that extreme? Do you not trust yourself? But yeah.
That's great to know. Yeah, we could probably talk about my finances here, but
no,
I'm good. We can't have a conversation about financial literacy and finances without that 4-letter word that everybody tries to avoid, right? Debt. Right. You've given some great examples as to what you all and your program does to help people avoid that or even get out of. But if someone were dealing with issues with debt, right, as minute as it might be or as grand as they might be, what would be your advice for those individuals that maybe haven't sought assistance or haven't, I don't want to say admitted, that's a whole different issue, but that kind of starts seeing, that snowball effect that started off as a small, and now it's this gigantic snowball that they feel the weight of the world's on their shoulders.
Yeah, no, and just know that there's somebody out there that's willing to help you. Because the people that I see, like that's how it started, where it started, oh, you know what, I'm gonna take out another credit card just to pay this one. and then you know what, just let me take out another one to pay this, and before you know it, you know. But no, I mean, and like everybody starts off with like good intentions, you know, and that's what I always tell people. But we always, because we're humans, and like we get in trouble because of our own human nature. But just know that there's somebody out there willing to help you, willing to sit with you, whether it takes 3 months, 6 months, or a year, past a year. We are here for you.
Yeah, you know, a lot of things that you've talked about today have really resonated with me, at least in even how we approach mental health and addiction and substance abuse. Not to, you know, put a correlation between the two, but you talk about SMART goals. We talk about SMART goals in my field, right? Talking about specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, put a time frame on them. And more often than not, when someone comes in for treatment, whether it's mental health or substance abuse, they've dealt with this issue for X amount of years, right? For an X amount of time period. Well, from what you're telling me, it's really getting them to realize that it's not going to be an overnight thing, right? That it might have taken 5-10 years for you to get into this quote unquote hole, right? This financial woe, the debt that you're in. It's not going to be something that happens overnight, right? And so it's really stable, or creating those goals, like you said, that I want to be debt free. Well, that's a great goal, but it's going to take a while, right? And that's when we start putting those smaller objectives, little stepping stones too. So other than the diet that you call, right, kind of trimming the fat per se, getting rid of the carbs and seeing that balance slowly coming down. What else would you advise, our fellow El Pasoans, what they could potentially do to help in those situations?
So the easiest thing is, of course, you know, like I mentioned before, is just trimming the fat, which is, of course, not just go away from Dutch Bros and Starbucks, but also look at your lifestyle. You know, like you having Netflix, Hulu, and the Disney Channel. Is that, you know, going to be good, paying $200 a month for everything? Or can you live without, you know, like having all three or just having one of them? It's fine. You know, and like there's some times where I've helped people where like there's packages. Hey, like there's, you know, like there's packages for like, I know Disney has it, where you could see like free Hulu or something like that. Also with like your light bill, water bill, there's plans called the ABC plan, where like, hey, like you don't have to pay like $200-300 a month. And hey, like you just have to go like on this plan. It's a set payment each month, you know, like if you qualify. But yeah, you know, there's things out there, and you know what? Also, like if you do have, you know, like if you are paying for cable or like satellite, do you really need it? Or like do you just really need to pay $50-60 a month for like just Wi-Fi for like the internet and just watch your shows that way? Because if you're, you know, like if you're never home, and like just cutting like little things like that could be the biggest savings ever. Also, like with loans, you know, like if you have a car loan, that, you know, one particular example, that's the biggest thing too, where I see people where like we do refinance loans for them, where we see that they're paying a little bit too much for their loan. And I'm like, well, you know, because we could do this for you, and the payment comes down. That's another savings. So we could go, you know, just more in depth, like with just the little things like that.
So again, I mean, from what I'm getting is that first and foremost, our viewers and people out there should realize that it's not about judgment, right? When you go out and seek assistance, it shouldn't be tied to a weakness. It shouldn't be tied to the stigma of we don't talk about money. And believe me, I think that's probably the hardest thing, right? Is reaching out for assistance, right? And again, having that notion or that idea that, oh, you know, like I'm going to use it as I'm like, oh, if I tell Bruce that I'm in debt, oh man, Bruce is going to think I'm the worst person, or his staff, and then they're going to go tell everybody. And like you said, you know, if I go to this room over here at Raiz, and people know that I'm here for financial literacy classes, but unfortunately we know that that's often the mentality that a lot of the people have, right? That this negative stigma associated with the concept of financial literacy, debt, and again, these words that are like, right?
Yes.
But from what you're telling me is that these services are not only accessible, they're free, right? And they are definitely there to help people again, not to kind of use a slogan, but to raise, right?
Yeah,
to raise
to raise you from wherever you're at, to like get you to the next level. And a lot of people, that's one thing, is that they're afraid. Like the biggest thing, the hardest thing to do is to ask for help.
Yeah.
Is to come out and say, Bruce, you know what? Can you help me? Or I always joke, just joke with people and say, okay, like if you don't want to see me, you could, see like my ugly face, you could see, like I have other coworkers who, and like that's one thing where like, hey, like we could do this once a month or once a week, whatever, on your time.
Yeah. And that's great to know. Again, it's one of the things I know for a fact for me, myself, and I. Finances is not really a good conversation for me, right? I talk about like, I got it, I'm good, I can deal with it, just don't talk to me about it. But it's definitely something that is hard for a lot of people to talk about.
Yeah, and to start off, I mean, just it's like super simple, is that you have to know, one, just how much you're getting paid, when you're getting paid. Okay, that's like step number one. Okay, how much money is coming into my house, to my household? Am I a one income household? Am I two income household? Because some people, you may find it hard to believe, they don't know when they get paid. Like it's wow. But like we sit down with them and we let them know, okay, so when do you get paid? Okay, I get paid every so often, blah blah. Okay, so when is this bill due? When is that bill due?
Right.
Once like those little key things, and okay, well I get paid like 2 days before this bill. Okay, boom, and like we'll start helping you that way. I mean, it's the little thing that that will take. That will have you breathing better, and that will have you going back to mental health, like sleeping better.
Right.
Because like a lot of people lose sleep over like their finances being,
anxiety kicks in.
Yeah. Or like a lot of, you just got to relax and just say, okay, what's the next step?
Excellent. And to make things easier, if we can, we'll definitely have this information up. We'll put a little tag here where you can follow and even look up the information from Raiz, and also put some more of the information on the how to access and how to go about getting these services, or even looking up these services that you all offer. And again, this is something that can potentially be available in some of your other financial agencies or institutions. But again, the hardest thing, and I can't preach or get on my pedestal or whatever enough, but if there's only there's a saying in Spanish, right? El que no habla, Dios no lo oye, right? And
Exactamente, yes.
Loosely translated is, he who doesn't speak, God doesn't listen to you, right? And it's not a religious connotation. It's just that the help that you might need won't be available unless you seek it, or until you tell someone that you need assistance with.
So, just one thing I just wanted to add was, we have a show that is called Opportunity Knocks. And the people on that show are exactly the people that we, just like all of Americans, where, hey, like we go out and help these people, but they have to reach out. Like we don't go door to door knocking.
Right, yeah.
Like,
you need help.
Yeah.
Well, Bruce, again, thank you for taking time
so much
out of your
having
busy schedule, and again for having this, sometimes not an easy conversation to have.
And I didn't go into depth because I didn't want to like scare anybody. But but thank you again for having me. Yeah,
but again, the information, the website for Raiz, and again maybe a list of the different services that are provided will be listed below for you all to access. And again, the hardest thing most of the times is just not only accepting, but realizing that we need help, myself included. I might be giving you a call. But with that said, again, thank you all for allowing us into your computer, into your home. And if you at any point in time wish to review this or any of the other shows from Keeping It Social, or the rest of the lineup that is offered here through EPCC TV, please don't hesitate to look up EPCC TV's channel on YouTube, and also find us on your local TV station under the PBS or the EPCC TV channel. Again, at any point in time, if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions for future shows, don't hesitate to reach out to me, myself, and I. My information will pop up here as well. And so again, I would like to give Bruce a huge and hearty thank you for coming on board, and maybe we can have another conversation soon about another hard issue.
Yes, of course.
So again, remember, there's a lot of issues that affect our community, that affect us as El Pasoans. some probably not easy to have. But at the end of the day, all we ask is just keep it social. Thank you all.